I've always been a night owl, finding solace in the stillness that descends when the world sleeps. My routine led me to the local Dunkin Donuts, where I'd often hunker down with a book and a cup of coffee to while away the wee hours. There was something calming about the hum of fluorescent lights and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee that made the nighttime Dunkin feel like my own private refuge. One chilly autumn evening, I entered the Dunkin Donuts just as the clock struck midnight. The fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow on the empty tables and the display of colorful pastries. A faint chill crept down my spine, but I brushed it off as the cold breeze from outside. The place was unusually empty for a Friday night, which was odd considering the late-night crowd that usually trickled in. I approached the counter, the bell above the door jingling softly in the silence. The cashier, a tired-looking woman with a name tag that read Maggie, gave me a half-hearted smile. "What can I get you tonight?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just a large coffee, please," I replied, trying to shake off the unease that had settled over me since I entered. Maggie filled a cup with coffee, her movements slow and deliberate. "Here you go," she murmured, sliding the cup toward me. I noticed her gaze flicker to something behind me, her eyes widening momentarily before she quickly looked away. Turning, I spotted a figure in the corner booth, shrouded in shadows. My heart skipped a beat, and I cursed myself for being so easily spooked. It was just a person, probably lost in their thoughts like I often was. I nodded at Maggie and made my way to an empty table closer to the entrance, closer to the safety of the door. As I settled into my chair, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I glanced over my shoulder, the figure in the corner booth seemed to be staring right at me, though their features remained hidden in the darkness. My book lay untouched, forgotten, as I sipped my coffee and tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks. The minutes stretched into an hour, the stillness of the Dunkin only amplifying the unease that gnawed at me. I shifted in my seat, unable to shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The figure in the corner booth hadn't moved an inch, and the silence was starting to feel suffocating. Finally, I decided to leave. I couldn't bear the weight of the oppressive atmosphere any longer. I pushed my chair back, the sound echoing through the empty space like a gunshot. As I turned to head for the door, I noticed Maggie's eyes widen again, and this time she pointedly shook her head as if urging me to stay put. Confusion mingled with fear as I hesitated, my hand still on the door handle. Why was she signaling me to stay? What did she know that I didn't? Then, the figure in the corner booth moved. My breath caught in my throat as the person stood up slowly, their form emerging from the shadows. It was a man, tall and slender, with a disheveled appearance. But it was his eyes that sent a shiver down my spine. They were wild, wide, and filled with a desperate intensity. He began to walk toward me, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. Panic surged through my veins, and I yanked the door open, stumbling out into the cold night air. My heart raced as I fumbled for my phone, dialing 911 as I explained the situation in rushed, breathless sentences. There's a man in Dunkin Donuts. He's acting strange. I think he's dangerous." The dispatcher assured me that help was on the way, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the man was right behind me, that he was following me into the night. I didn't dare look back, but I could sense his presence, his erratic energy, like a predator stalking its prey. Minutes felt like hours as I walked briskly, sticking to the well-lit streets and avoiding the shadows. The distant wail of sirens signaled the arrival of the police, and a sense of relief washed over me. But that relief was short-lived as a sudden realization struck me. The man knew I had called the police. He knew I had sought help. The sound of footsteps grew louder behind me, quickening with each passing second. I dared a glance over my shoulder, and there he was, emerging from an alley, his eyes locked onto mine.
His lips curled into a chilling grin, sending ice through my veins.
I broke into a run, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. The distant lights of a convenience store beckoned, promising safety. My lungs burned as I sprinted, the man's footsteps growing fainter, his manic laughter haunting my ears. Finally, I burst through the doors of the convenience store, gasping for breath. The store clerk, an older man, looked at me with concern. "Are you all right, kid?" Between breaths, I managed to explain the situation, and the clerk immediately locked the doors and called the police. As we waited, the fear began to subside, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. The adrenaline that had fueled my flight was now dissipating, leaving me trembling and drained. When the police arrived, they assured me that they would search for the man and keep an eye on the area. They took my statement, and I watched as their cruiser disappeared into the night. The convenience store clerk offered to call a cab for me, and I gratefully accepted. I needed to get home, to escape the terror that still lingered in the air. The cab ride was a blur, the city lights passing by in a haze. When I finally stepped into my apartment, I locked the door behind me and sank to the floor, my back against the cold wood. The events of the night replayed in my mind like a horror movie, each scene etched in vivid detail. I couldn't shake the feeling that the man's eyes were still on me, that he was lurking just beyond the door. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind sent a jolt of fear through me. My hands shook as I reached for my phone, dialing my friend's number. "Hey, it's me," I said, my voice trembling. "I know it's late, but can you come over? I just need someone here." My friend, sensing the urgency in my voice, agreed without hesitation. As I waited for them to arrive, I huddled on the couch, the darkness outside seeming to press against the windows. The sense of dread I had felt at Dunkin Donuts had followed me home, refusing to let go. When my friend finally knocked on the door, I practically leaped to my feet, unlocking it and pulling them into a tight hug. I didn't need to explain much. They could see the fear in my eyes. We spent the night talking, sharing stories, and watching mindless TV shows. Their presence was a balm to my frayed nerves, a reminder that I wasn't alone. As the hours ticked by, the weight of exhaustion returned, and I found myself nodding off on the couch. But even in sleep, the terror didn't let go. Nightmares of the man's haunting eyes and echoing laughter plagued my rest, turning what should have been a respite into another layer of torment. Morning eventually came, casting a soft golden light through the windows. The events of the night felt distant, like a fading nightmare. My friend had stayed by my side, a silent comfort that I was deeply grateful for. In the days that followed, the police continued their search, and the Dunkin Donuts reopened its doors. But the sense of unease lingered, a reminder that fear could lurk in the most mundane of places. I haven't been back to that Dunkin Donuts since that night. The once familiar refuge has transformed into a place of dread, its memories impossible to shake. And while life has moved on, and the world keeps spinning, the feeling of being watched, of being pursued by something malevolent, still haunts me, a chilling reminder that darkness can take hold in the most unexpected corners of our lives.